It's a fish out of water story. He's forced to do something desperate, gets thrown into a world that he doesn't belong, and how will he survive in that world? Which is an ancient story. It's the basic story of so many shows. But it was a specifically different environment, and it was so beautifully executed that it became compelling, and we fell in love with that character. The other phrase I hate is briefly describe. At the beginning of House, I was constantly asked to do a paragraph on who the character was, or do 2 sentences on who the character was. And I just was so frustrated by that as an exercise. And I realized, or rationalized, depending on your point of view, I may just not have been that good at that stuff. Once I can describe my character in 2 or 3 sentences, my character is dead. You can't describe yourself in 2 or 3 paragraphs. You are by definition reducing your character to something less than what you want your character to be. You want your character to be incredibly complex and deep and have nuance.
So the complexity of a character, I think, is incredibly important. And we're not all good people. We do bad things. We lie when we think it's going to make somebody happy. And we tell the truth when sometimes we shouldn't. So it's all those choices. It's creating a character and understanding. It has such a long time to grow that person and to integrate them into the lives, the intimacy that happens, because unlike movies, you go into a dark room with 40 strangers or with 400 strangers and you look at a big screen and you fantasize. But when somebody comes into your home, they become your best friend, and you get to know things about them that are so intimate and so tiny and so small that you become a part of them and they become a part of you. And so when I create a character, I want to create a character that's going to be my best friend or my worst enemy, and I want to seek revenge to destroy them. And they've done something to me that's so painful that I have to step out of the moral dilemma of me being a good Christian girl brought up in America to go, you touch my kids, I'm going to rip your head off. You don't know that you're going to do that until somebody touches your kids. So to me, those are the kind of elements that you put around and you challenge a character. And then and all those characters come from you. Any character you write, the good guy, the bad guy, the cute guy, the ugly person, they all come from you. They're all a side of you. And based on that, the voice in a show is your voice. And it's really hard to keep a consistent voice in a show, to keep that character consistent. So when you define them and who they are and yet let them grow, it's a journey. It's an ongoing, breathing, living journey. But the biggest thing is to make them as complex and on one hand as normal as you can make them, and on the other hand, there's a switch and you just don't know where that line is, because when you get that switch, only you, the writer, knows what that person's going to do. Is that right?
Yeah. So, truth wins. It really does win. And we now live in a world where people write spec pilots that people read, and as they and we buy quite a lot of them. And there's a lot of people, whether there are agents, whether there are producers, whether there are studios or networks, there are a lot of executives looking for new material. And you now have the opportunity to create a world and put it on paper, get people to read it. And television is pretty hungry for new voices. I mean, if you went around to television executives right now, they would be saying, there's so many dramas on the air right now, there's so many dramas being made, and so many writers being employed by them that they can't find enough writers to go to. They can't find enough writers to develop with. They can't find enough writers to sell. There's so much appetite right now. So the good side of it being the quote golden age of television drama is that there's a lot of opportunity for writers to be employed. So as long as you stick to your voice, you actually do have a shot.
happen to know the answer, so I want to end with this. For Deborah, if you had the opportunity to ask David Shore any question at all, what would it be?
Actually, I was going to ask, do you personally enjoy torturing your characters the way you torture them, or is this just your style?
Yes. I torture myself with it. I mean, it's a strange thing. You really do live with your characters in a very real sense. And when you're, especially in a TV show, when you're writing episode after episode after episode, living with them, I spoke to Hugh about this late in the game, and we weren't quite sure, but I think we both, I mean, obviously it was an incredible blessing, but I think we both carried this burden of living with this man on a very personal level and sort of being him for 8 years and loving him. I mean, I loved that character, but he was part of me. I think there was a weight that was carried because of that.